It was supposed to be our night, my anniversary. The one day in the year when everything else could pause. Deadlines, clients, the endless hustle. And it would just be about me and him. About us. I still remember how carefully I had chosen my dress that evening. A deep emerald silk that felt cool against my skin. The kind of fabric that whispers when you move. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I set the table myself, placing candles one by one, arranging fresh lilies in the vase like they could somehow carry the weight of my anticipation. The cake sat quietly on the counter. 3 layers of chocolate mousse, his favorite, with golden flakes sprinkled across the top. I kept glancing at it as if it were a witness to my joy. My phone buzzed on the table just as I lit the last candle. It was my mother. Her voice was rushed, distracted. "Beta, come quickly, it's important." My heart skipped. An emergency? I grabbed my keys, telling myself I'd be back before the candles burned out. But nothing could have prepared me for what I walked into. Balloons, music, laughter, a hall decorated like a dream, and right in the center of it all, my younger sister, glowing like a bride, surrounded by relatives, while my parents beamed. It wasn't a family emergency. It was a surprise party for her on my anniversary night. And that was the moment I realized sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who raised you. I wish I could say that night was the first time my parents had chosen my sister over me. But it wasn't. Growing up, it was always her. The brighter one, the prettier one, the one who needed more attention. I was the dependable daughter, the one they never worried about. If she cried, they rushed. If I cried, they said, "You're strong, Beta. You'll manage." I still remember one evening when I was 17. I had worked for weeks preparing a debate for school. I won first place, my very first medal. I rushed home, clutching that small, shining circle like it was a crown. My heart was racing with pride, with the hope that maybe this time they'd see me. But when I stepped into the living room, my mother was busy helping my sister get ready for a music recital. "We don't have time right now," she said, barely looking up. My father glanced at the medal and smiled faintly, then went back to adjusting my sister's microphone. The medal felt heavier than gold in my hand. I remember slipping it into my school bag, swallowing the lump in my throat. That night, my grandmother found me sitting on the rooftop, eyes red, my hands trembling as I twisted the ribbon of that medal over and over. She sat beside me quietly, her wrinkled hands warm against mine. After a long silence, she slipped a small silver bracelet onto my wrist. "Listen to me, Mary John," she said softly. "Life won't always clap for you when you deserve it. Sometimes even your own won't see you, but never, never forget your worth. You shine, whether they see it or not." Those words, they lodged in my heart like a promise. It wasn't long after that a bigger fight broke out. I had been accepted into a university program I had dreamed of, journalism. My parents refused. "It's not practical," my father said. "Your sister's music career needs our support. We can't waste money on your experiments." Waste. That's what my dreams were to them. That night, with tears soaking my pillow, I made a decision. I couldn't keep waiting for their approval. I would write my own story, even if no one came to read it. I packed my bags quietly at dawn, slipping my grandmother's bracelet into my pocket. My hands shook, but there was a strange calm inside me too. For the first time in years, I wasn't chasing their applause. I was walking toward my own voice, and I promised myself I would never, ever let anyone erase me again. The first few months on my own were nothing like the movies. There were no dramatic sunsets or triumphant music playing in the background. Just me, in a cramped rented room with peeling paint, a creaky fan, and a thin mattress that smelled of damp. I worked wherever I could, typing notes for college students, proofreading wedding cards, selling handmade jewelry at a roadside stall. By day, I smiled like I wasn't breaking. By night, I cried into my pillow, whispering to myself, "One day they'll see." Still, there was something raw and liberating about it. Each time I counted my own money, and no matter how little, it felt like proof that I existed outside their shadow. Journalism was my dream, but the world didn't open its arms easily. Editors dismissed me. Professors doubted me. Doors closed one after another. Once an older editor actually chuckled when I handed him my portfolio. "You're too soft for this industry, Betty," he said. "Maybe try teaching instead." His words stung, but I didn't let him see me flinch. I walked out with trembling knees, my grandmother's bracelet digging into my wrist like a reminder, never forget your worth. Then came a turning point. I met Mrs. Kapoor, a seasoned journalist known for her razor-sharp articles and fearlessness. She wasn't warm at first, more like a storm wrapped in a crisp cotton sari, but she saw something in me. Maybe it was the stubborn fire in my eyes. Maybe it was the way I refused to leave her office without at least showing her my writing. She gave me a chance, not a job, just an unpaid internship. But it was enough. I spent nights hunched over her assignments, fact-checking until my eyes burned. She pushed me hard, criticized me harder, but every time I improved, her eyes softened just a little. The day she finally said, "Good work, keep at it," I felt taller than I ever had in my parents' house. And slowly, the world began to shift. My first published article, my first paycheck that wasn't from odd jobs, my first piece that went viral online, strangers sharing my words, debating them, quoting them. It was intoxicating, but I kept it all hidden from my family. On phone calls, when they asked how I was doing, I said, "I'm fine, just managing." No details, no boasting. A part of me still feared they'd find a way to dismiss it, to twist it into something small. Years passed, and my career blossomed in silence. I learned how to negotiate contracts, how to handle sexist remarks in conference rooms, how to speak with authority without letting my voice shake. I saved every rupee, built connections, invested carefully. Piece by piece, I built a life no one could take credit for but me. And then came the biggest moment, my own media startup. A platform I named after my grandmother's favorite Urdu word, Roshan, bright, luminous, seen. The girl who once packed her bags at dawn with nothing but a bracelet had now built something powerful enough to light up thousands of lives. But still, my parents and sister had no idea. To them, I was just the quiet, dependable daughter living somewhere in the city, and I intended to keep it that way. Until the night of my anniversary. I don't think they expected me to show up that night. After all, the party wasn't for me, but something inside me, maybe pride, maybe pain, refused to let me disappear quietly. I walked into that glittering hall in my emerald dress, the candles I had lit hours earlier still flickering in the back of my mind. Everyone turned when I entered. My sister, glowing in her sequined gown, let out a squeal of surprise. My parents rushed forward with forced smiles, as if my presence was some happy accident. For a while, I played along. I hugged relatives, accepted compliments, and even smiled for photos. But inside, every laugh felt like sandpaper against my skin. This was supposed to be my night. The next morning, I made a decision. If they couldn't see me when I was standing right in front of them, I would show them in a way they could never ignore. So when my parents called a week later, asking to drop by with my sister, I said yes, calmly, almost sweetly. That Saturday, they arrived, expecting, perhaps, a modest apartment, maybe even signs of struggle. Instead, the elevator doors opened to a sunlit penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows spilled golden light across polished oak floors. A curated collection of books lined one wall. Abstract art adorned another. My parents froze in the doorway. My sister's mouth actually fell open. I didn't rush to explain. I let the silence stretch, let their eyes drink in the evidence of a life they'd never imagined for me. A staff member appeared with coffee served in porcelain cups, setting them gently on the marble table. My mother clutched hers like it might shatter. "What? Whose place is this?" my father finally managed. I smiled faintly, adjusting the bracelet on my wrist. "Mine." Their eyes snapped to me, wide, disbelieving. I led them through the apartment, the awards on my shelf, the framed article that had once trended nationwide, the glass plaque from an international journalism summit. Each artifact was a piece of the life I had bled for. When we reached my office, sleek, minimal, alive with buzzing monitors, my sister whispered, You run this?" I turned to face them, steady, calm. Yes, Roshan Media is mine. The platform that reaches millions of readers every month, built from scratch. Every late night, every rejection, every word was mine. Silence, the kind that weighs heavy, like a storm pressing down. My father's face crumpled with confusion. My mother's lips trembled, searching for words. My sister's eyes darted around, as if reality might be hiding behind one of the screens. "You never told us," my mother whispered. "Would it have mattered?" I asked, my voice steady but low. "When have you ever listened long enough to hear me? The night of my anniversary, you celebrated her. Do you know what that felt like? To watch my own parents forget me." "Again?" My sister flinched. My father tried to speak, but his throat caught. I stepped closer, my heels echoing softly on the marble. "You thought I was invisible, that I'd keep swallowing the silence, keep clapping from the shadows. But look around you." I spread my arms, not in arrogance, but in undeniable truth. "This is what you overlooked. This is who you dismissed." The bracelet on my wrist gleamed as sunlight hit it, my grandmother's silent applause. Their faces told the story, guilt in my mother's eyes, shame clouding my father's, and something almost like fear flickering across my sister's expression. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the daughter waiting to be seen. I was the woman who could no longer be ignored, and the power, it was finally mine. The silence in my office stretched so long I could almost hear the hum of the computers like a heartbeat. For years, I had been the one shrinking in corners, waiting for scraps of attention. But that day, they were the ones shrinking in my space. I didn't want revenge. Revenge is shallow, fleeting. What I wanted was acknowledgement, the kind that goes deeper than an apology. So I set my cup down and spoke slowly, clearly. "You want to know why I never told you? Because every time I tried to shine, you dimmed the lights. Every time I reached for something, you pushed my sister forward instead. You didn't just ignore me, you erased me." My mother's eyes filled with tears. My father dropped his gaze to the floor. My sister shifted uncomfortably, her glittering nails tapping against the arm of the chair. "I'm not that girl anymore," I continued, my voice firm but steady. "And if you want to be a part of my life now, there are conditions." My father looked up, startled. "Conditions?" "Yes." I folded my arms across my chest. "First, honesty. No more pretending. You will not dismiss me, not in private, not in public. If you introduce me, you will use the words I earned, founder, journalist, entrepreneur, not just our elder daughter who manages." My mother let out a small sob. My sister rolled her eyes, but I held her gaze until she dropped it. "Second," I said, my tone softer but unyielding, "respect. Not the kind you perform at parties, but the kind that shows in everyday choices. Stop belittling my dreams. Stop assuming I'll always adjust. Stop putting her needs above mine like I was born to play second place." My sister flinched at that. Her lips parted, ready to protest, but I raised a hand. "And third, growth. For all of you. You," I turned to my sister, "must learn to stand on your own 2 feet without pushing me down to feel taller. If music is truly your dream, then work for it. Own it. Stop using our parents as your shield." She looked away, her jaw tight, but I saw the flicker of shame beneath her defiance. I leaned forward, my voice low but firm. "And you too," I looked at my parents, "need to ask yourselves why it took losing me to realize my worth. If you want to repair this relationship, you'll have to put in the effort, not with money, not with gifts, but with presence, with accountability." The words hung in the air, heavy but cleansing. For once, I wasn't begging them to understand. I was giving them a choice. They sat in stunned silence, the weight of my conditions pressing down like truth itself. Finally, my father swallowed hard. "And if we can't change?" I stood tall, my bracelet glinting under the light. "Then you'll keep living your lives as if I don't exist. Just know this time, it won't be me who suffers from that choice." I turned slightly, glancing at the skyline outside my window. A city that once swallowed me whole but had now bent to my will. My voice softened, but there was no mistaking the edge in it. "I love you," I admitted quietly. "I always will. But I love myself more now, and I won't sacrifice that again. Not for anyone." The silence that followed wasn't just shock. It was the sound of power shifting, of an old hierarchy collapsing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was the one setting the rules. The days that followed were strangely quiet. No dramatic confrontations, no sudden apologies, just silence. Heavy, uncertain silence. Then, little by little, things began to shift. My father called one evening, his voice halting, almost awkward. "Beta, I read one of your articles today about women in business. It was good." He didn't say more, but I heard the weight in those 3 words. It wasn't praise the way I once craved it, but it was something real. A beginning. My mother started visiting, not with gifts or excuses, but with questions. "What are you working on these days? How do you manage such a big team?" She listened in a way she never had before. Her eyes softer, her tone free of comparison. Sometimes she would reach across the table to squeeze my hand, and though she never said the words "I'm sorry," her touch carried it. Even my sister changed. She stopped flaunting her successes in my face and for the first time admitted her fears. "One night," she confessed, "I always thought if you got the spotlight, there would be nothing left for me." But maybe I was wrong. I didn't forgive them instantly. Healing doesn't work that way. Trust has to be rebuilt, brick by brick, and some scars never fade. But I wasn't looking for perfection anymore, so only progress. One evening, as I stood on my balcony watching the city lights shimmer, I slipped my grandmother's bracelet off my wrist. The silver had dulled a little over the years, but it still glowed under the moonlight. I traced its edges with my fingers, remembering her voice. "Never forget your worth." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Not of sadness, but of release. Because I finally understood. My worth had never been tied to their approval. It was mine all along. The night my parents hosted a surprise party for my sister on my anniversary, I thought I had lost something precious. But in truth, that was the night I found myself. And now, as I look at the woman I've become, I know this much with absolute certainty. Choosing myself was the best anniversary gift I could have ever received.